You are listening to the Critical Mass Radio Show, Orange County's business talk show, focused on exploring topics of interest to CEOs who are leading middle market companies. With your host, Richard Franzi.
Hello and welcome to Orange County's longest running business talk show. And yes, I am your host, Rick Franzi. And do we have a good show planned for you today? Why do you ask? Because Daren Lauda is our guest. He is the CEO of Outset. Daren, welcome to the program.
Glad to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
So let's kick it off, which I like to do with founders of companies. Take us back in time and give us your origin story. You know, what was the motivation, inspiration for you to launch this firm?
Sure. So if I go way back in time, when I got out of the Army, I set a goal to be the CEO of a software company someday. And I built my career around that. I really tried to have progressive points of leadership, a lot of skill building so that I could run a software company someday. Candidly, I thought I would become the CEO of an existing company. I'd be promoted into the role. But somewhere along the way, I realized I want to run my own company. I want to build my own. I want to build it with people I know and trust. And so I started to shift my ideas towards more of an entrepreneurial journey. And, you know, in the end, I ended up investing in a venture studio and then creating Outset, which I'm part of today, which is a lot of fun.
That's interesting. That was a nice quick hit synopsis on your first answer to the question. We're off to the races, ladies and gentlemen. What have you and your team learned, though, since you've launched? Any pivots to the business?
Yeah, some really big pivots. So, two that I'll talk about in particular. Number one, who we're trying to sell to. And number two, what direction we're going to take the product in. So I think about who we're trying to sell to first. We initially thought that we built an application using AI that chief revenue officers or VPs of sales would love. It would show them what their bookings trajectory was going to be. As we sit in February, where would my business be in October and November and December? What will the marketing contributions be? What steps can we take now to make sure that we're delivering the number in the fourth quarter, for example? What we found was, as we got going, that CROs often are more worried about this month and next month. I don't get to work here in October and November if I don't make February and March. So we realized that our initial target had a champagne problem, or at least they're solving a champagne problem for them, more about fourth quarter now. So that was a big learning. We had to start shaping differently to whom we sell. We started approaching CEOs and CFOs, FP&A leaders. People have to think more about a long-term bookings forecast. So shift number one was to whom we're going to sell this application. Shift number two, or I would say pivot number two, was a founder mistake. I knew what I wanted to build. I knew what the market wanted. I just knew because I'm the founder. And when we had our MVP, I immediately dictated what our next feature would be because it's what I would want. I learned that might not have been the next priority for the market. So I made that classic founder mistake of knowing what should be built without testing in the market.
That's interesting. You have a background, though, in similar products. I know for a while you were an executive at Salesforce.com, let's say, which has great familiarity with the original target audience that you were going after. So let's talk about what Outset is today. What problems are you solving? I mean, what's the niche that you see, and who is getting the most value from leveraging and working with your firm?
Yeah, sure. Great questions. So who are we serving today? Here's the challenge. I live in a market, SaaS software, that if you go back in time 10, 15 years, was a growth at all costs mentality. VC money was easy. I shouldn't say it that way, but it was kind of easy to get. And as long as you were growing rapidly, you could spend in a really inefficient way. Just grow. Everything else would sort itself out. The world, especially post-pandemic, has moved more towards profitable, efficient growth. How do we run businesses effectively? VC is a bit harder to get. So now we're spending time thinking, okay, how do I spend in particular sales and marketing dollars more efficiency? Why sales and marketing dollars? Well, in a growing SaaS business, they may account for about 40% of revenue in terms of your budget. You're spending a lot of money there, and you want to make sure you're getting great returns. So the niche we're trying to serve is people who want to grow their businesses profitably and efficiently. built around recurring revenue models. This is why it becomes important to build that long-term bookings forecast. If I can see gaps to goal in October today, I can spend sales and marketing dollars really efficiently to fix that problem. If I realize I have a problem in October, in September, I cannot spend efficiently. I can only do really costly things to try to change that dynamic. So that's a big part of the niche we want to serve. And sorry for the long-winded answer, but the second part is, it's interesting when you think about 40% of revenue being allocated to a particular spend type. I don't think people try to manage it very well. A CEO and a CFO go through monthly close every month. We reconcile our invoicing, our payables, our new balance sheets. Everything is rebuilt and we reconcile really, really well. But we don't reconcile that sales and marketing spend, right? So even though we're spending that much money there, we're kind of sloppy about reconciling whether it's working or not. So Outset is designed to give you that long-term view so you can optimize that sales and marketing spend and take sloppiness out of the equation by really driving a monthly close process.
Great answer to the question. A little quick follow-up. What size client do you think is best served, or are you finding are most interested in working with you?
Yeah, great question. The size, I would say, of people who are interested is kind of unlimited. However, we use a lot of regression analysis, what I call deterministic AI. So past performance data has to exist. So I say you have to probably have at least a year of good quality sales data. Doesn't have to be perfect, but there has to be data we can work against. Generally, you have to have a recurring revenue model. I think that's where we really shine. So we focus on selling to SaaS software companies or professional services firms who have recurring services they deliver. But we can also do B2C. I haven't tested it yet, but if you want to get fresh pet dog food to your house, there's no reason we couldn't do predictions for them as well.
Nice. And I saw while you were answering that question that Patrick M on LinkedIn gave us a thumbs up. So thank you, Patrick. We always like it when the audience makes a comment or supports the show. So appreciate that. As you've been in this founder mode, I know you have a team, but I'm wondering, as the corner office guy, have you ever felt alone or maybe a little isolated in the kind of decisions that you have to make as you work on Outset?
Yeah, sure. Without a doubt. You're in the office, you're trying to decide what we're going to do tomorrow, next week, next month. You're trying to make decisions based on cash coming in, decisions that impact people. You're trying to figure out where do I want to invest? Is it into the sales team or the marketing function for demand generation? Do I want to put more into product? Do I want to onshore or offshore? You don't get to talk to, especially in a startup mode, a very small entity. There aren't a whole lot of people you can go talk to about it internally without having the loudest voice in the room syndrome, right? My head of engineering is going to want those resources. My marketer is going to want those resources. My sales leader is going to want those resources. And look, it's competitive. So trying to find somebody to talk to about that can be really challenging at times. I tend to go look for peers, other founders in Orange County. Who can I bounce ideas off with? That's how I try to shed the loneliness. Who is in a situation like mine that I can spend time with? I'll add, I have the luxury that people on my team I've known for 10 or 20 years, so I do trust them. I don't want to take anything away there. But yeah, it sure can be lonely in the office at times, especially in the home office.
Yes, no matter how professionally decorated it might be, it can be lonely at times, isn't it?
For sure.
So, turn you a little different direction. Best piece of business advice, can you think of something that somebody gave you, a mentor or a friend or peer, that you could share and pay it forward with our audience today?
Yeah, there's really one that comes to mind, maybe a second. The first comes to hiring. It started way back when we were trying to figure out how to bring diversity of thought into the executive team. And somebody said, hey, let's make it a new rule. When we are looking at candidates and we get down to a final 2 or 3, let's always hire the one who thinks least like us, right? That way we get a diversity of thought, a different viewpoint when we want to attack a problem. And I think that's really important. And I think that oftentimes we want to assemble a team that thinks like us because it feels easier. Hey, he or she thinks like I do. This will be a great match. I would love to have a contrarian in the room. I think that's really, really important. If I was going to think about another piece of advice that's probably overused and overshared, it's have a bias for action. It's so easy to think and debate and analyze before taking a step. If you can keep a bias for action, go test things that you might want to test, be willing to fail fast, and celebrate the failure. If we try a 1 week campaign and it doesn't work at all, let's go have happy hour and celebrate that. We learned something really important. We're not going to do it again, right? So celebrating failure is one that was taught to me that I really, really love.
I think both of those are valuable, and for the entrepreneur, that the last one is really valuable too, because I have seen many early stage companies who spend a lot of time not on the main thing. And in the early days, you tell me your opinion, but my sense is the main thing is finding prospects who will turn into customers so that you can get the cash flow going and you can build a business. The website's great. The rest of the stuff is important, but you need to make sure you prioritize that engagement activity. And a lot of times I see people aren't comfortable getting out to talk to people because it's just not ready yet. I'm just not ready.
Yeah. Well, I remind myself every day that no matter what my title is, I'm actually the account executive in chief. I have to get into the field, talk to people, drum up demand, learn, and sell, right? Because at this stage, it's about getting cash in the door and creating happy customers. So, it's uncomfortable for people. And frankly, I grew up in sales, but I got used to being the boss, the SVP, the GM, right?
Yeah. Nice, yeah. You have other people for that now, yeah.
Exactly. Becoming the seller in chief all over again. It's been a new learning experience. And I got to admit, sometimes it's like, oh, I'm cold calling today. It's just really what I want to do. But man, it's so much fun. Sometimes when you get so far away from the sales process and so far away from the customers, you forget how fun it is just to be in the room and engage where the work is done. And that's where I can get the most value right now. Go see where people are doing the actual work that my product might be applicable to. Holy cow, that's a great learning experience, and it's a lot of fun.
I have a background in sales as well, and I think there's nothing more rewarding than when you actually find somebody that you can help and they believe you can help them, and then you begin that journey of discovery to see how you might be able to help them. Entrepreneurs are problem solvers, and so are good salespeople. They're just trying to really help, and so it's nice it is humbling in a way, but it is nice. What the entrepreneur has to do, you have to do everything, especially in the early days of the business, don't you, Daren?
Yeah, and it's a great reminder. Look, I had this, in hindsight, fantasy moment. Of course, people will respond to my outreach. I have CEO on my signature block. Who wouldn't respond to my emails? Guess what? It doesn't work like that. Busy people don't care what your title is. They care about the problem you can solve. And making sure you can get that message in front of them is really the goal.
Beautiful. You mentioned AI before, which is a great opportunity for me to ask you to help our audience understand from your perspective as the CEO and building this company, what role do you see AI playing in your company? And maybe at a bigger point, how do you see it shaping the business ecosystem?
Yeah, sure. So I'll talk about it from really two perspectives. First, from my product itself, and then number two, how we're leveraging it inside of the business. If I think about the product, we're beginning with the less sexy version of AI, which is deterministic AI, machine learning, where it all started, right? People were winning Nobel Peace Prizes for, or Nobel Prizes for machine learning, 20, 30 years ago. So it's not new. But what we do is really aggressive regression analysis to figure out trajectories of where a business is going. Our application does that natively. It uses cohort analysis. I won't bore you with the detail, but we start with a really great set of algorithms that have been vetted by the University of California and other major firms to make predictions. So we started with deterministic AI in the product, and that's what's happening right now today. I want to move into more of a generative mode over time, where a sales leader could sit down and maybe talk to a prompt, for example. Hey, Outset, I have a projected gap to goal in fourth quarter of. What are the 3 most efficient ways to attack that problem now if I don't spend extra dollars? Or what if I have $50,000 to allocate? Outset can run all that deterministic components, learn what's worked in the past, and then help you plan for the future. So we want to get to a point where the AI is doing that from a prompt-based scenario, kind of generative, and then maybe automatically making suggestions. Hey, Outset knows the gap's coming. You haven't asked, but have you thought about, right? That's the direction we're heading in. Then inside the business itself, we've made great use of generative AI to accelerate our growth inexpensively. For example, I don't know that I love the phrase prompt engineering, but people love to talk about being prompt engineers. We did a lot of prompt engineering to build our ICP, our personas, our marketing plans, to build PRDs faster, to really drive a high quality set of outputs faster than we ever could have. If I pick persona development, in a past life, I might have retained an outside firm and paid them $10 or $15 or $20,000 to do this work. I got 90% of the way there with generative, and then could challenge it with peers internally and saved a ton of money. So we made a really good use of it there. My engineering team is using constructs when they develop in different platforms to write code faster, right? So I think it's a really awesome time for entrepreneurs. You can do more, you can do it faster, and you can spend less in the process. I think the only thing that scares me is my competition has access to the same, so I've got to watch out for that.
Yeah, it's a race. It is a bit of a race. And thank you for that thoughtful answer. Let's talk about the future.
Sure.
Where as the visionary, you're the CEO, the founder. What's your vision for the future of your company?
Global domination. That's where we're headed. No, seriously, I want to be the application that executives use in their leadership meeting every single week when they want to go make decisions, right? Imagine you've got a marketing leader who wants a bunch of dollars to run campaigns. You've got a sales leader who wants a bunch of headcount, because what does sales leaders like? Feet on the street. You've got a finance leader. You know what he or she wants to know? When do I get cash from all these investments, right? And what happens right now is we either talk about options and analysts go do work and they come back a week or two later and give us ideas, in which case we all change. Finance, no, what about this? And sales, no, what about that? Everything is unnecessarily slowed. I want to have Outset at that table. And we say there are 20 things we could spend money on right now. Let's put the variables into Outset, and Outset will tell us what the best 3 are. And it won't only tell us what the best 3 are, it will tell us when those 3 options will deliver bookings by month.
Wow.
Right? So finance has a proxy for revenue and cash, right? So now you're a CEO that says, do I hire people? Do I invest in a campaign? Or do I focus on efficiency metrics, or a combination thereof? Outset can help you decide right there in the moment at the table, and it can memorialize the decisions and all the assumptions so that we can track if they're working or not. I want things to become that fast. I want Outset to sit at every single executive leadership team meeting and be the driver.
That's really inspiring. I work with a lot of SMB owners, entrepreneurs here in Southern California. Before I left the corporate world, I was the general manager, president of a manufacturing company. And the common refrain that I felt and that I hear from my clients is sometimes they wish they had more information by which to make the decision. Yes. That there's that risk in the decision, and then all the permutations that come off that, like I tend to listen to this person more because they know how to sell me better or convince me better, or I come from a fear and scarcity perspective, so I make these kind of decisions. So having a tool like this could really level the playing field for companies and decision makers.
Yeah, it really will. And what I don't talk about as much, I love problem solving, which people don't talk about a lot. But it's the idea that we can put Outset in place and say, this campaign was meant to deliver, I'm going to make this up, 50 leads this month. It's the 27th, and it's only delivered 26. So I can see the campaign as red. I can now quantify the pipeline gap that's been created in the future. The assumption was 50, we got 26, we created these shortfalls months out. I can now start to problem solve immediately. Why didn't that deliver? And I'm not waiting for 2 or 3 more weeks or a month or two and then having a surprise at the end of the quarter. I'm figuring out now in the first month of the campaign and quantifying the misses very clearly. It changes problem solving. I love that too.
Yeah, in our roundtable conversations with the SMB and entrepreneurs, we have this idea when they bring a challenge and we grade it A, B, C, and D. And I won't worry about C and D, but the A is an alligator and a B is a bear. And the difference is the alligator has you in its claws and tongue and it's grabbing you right now, where a bear, imagine, is a mama bear 300 yards down the creek. She sees you as a threat, but you got 300 yards to figure out what to do, versus the alligator. And so giving people time in business is such an advantage over being in the moment, because not only in the moment do you lack a lot of degrees of freedom, the emotion of being in that moment can really cloud your thinking too, my friend.
Yes. And when executives argue in the bear example, the one who can run faster than everybody else is safe from the bear, right?
Right.
So it's not a fair decision. It's just the person who can run the fastest.
Yeah, I don't have to outrun the bear. I just have to outrun you.
Exactly.
Far
Right,
Side
exactly
commercial.
right.
Okay. I know you're also launching and working with Second Step. Tell us about Second Step.
Yeah. So if I'm not a glutton for punishment trying to start one company from scratch, I'm starting a second. Second Step has always been a passion project for me. I watch families and young people invest hundreds of thousands of dollars to get into and through college. And as they're getting ready into their sophomore and junior year, these college students, I see a real gap in coaching them on how to win the world's best internships and find the world's best jobs. I don't care if the student went to Arizona State University or NYU, they all get the same advice. Here's a resume template, create a LinkedIn profile, submit it to lots of people, go. Um, I have been coaching young people on how to actually have a totally different approach to chasing those jobs, getting the power, making sure they're seen, making sure they interview really, really well, which is a function of a lot of different variables, making sure their follow up is top notch. And what I've seen is really smart kids. I have counseled some kids that went to universities like Tufts up near Boston, near Ivy League, coming in second or third to the Harvard and the MIT kids all the time. A little bit of time with me, all of a sudden they had 4 job offers. I worked with another young person recently from USC, same kind of thing. So I really want to coach kids on how to, I shouldn't say kids, young adults. These are people who are in their 20s now. Sorry, I'm showing my age. On how to do that really, really well, because I think it becomes a skill that they can carry into the business world. And I'll give you a simple example. I'm going to use my daughter because it's easy. She did an internship, and when I was trying to teach her how to answer questions about the internship, I said, give quantitative results. The campaign that you worked on, what did it actually do? They contacted 583 people who identified 169 who were RECP. We set 23 meetings, had 13 opportunities, right? Kids aren't taught to connect things through like that in the interview response. And if you can say that in an interview response, you're going to be different than every other young person they're doing.
Memorable.
Yes. Sure.
Make an impression. That's great. And if someone would like to connect with you, learn more about Outstep, or maybe even understand this latest venture, how do they do that?
Sure. Pretty easy. I'm all over LinkedIn. I'm Daren. My name's on the screen. You can see how it's spelled, so I'm easy to find that way. My email for Outset is Daren, first name, at outsetOps.com. That was the most inexpensive URL I could get, so I added ops, like operations, on the end. I'm always available there. I answer my phone when it rings, so if you can find my cell phone number on Apollo or something like that, feel free to go for it. Heck, I'll give it out, 949-307-9250.
Well, I've certainly enjoyed this. I said at the top of the show we were going to have a good one, and Daren, you delivered, and I appreciate your time today.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed it.
And thank you to the audience. You've been a part of Orange County's longest running business talk show. If you're an Orange County entrepreneur or you're a nonprofit leader and you would like to share your story the way Daren just did on our show, then reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm Rick Franzi. And if we're not connected, send me a connection request. If we are, send me a message. Let me know of your interest. And between Haley, our producer, and myself, we'll be more than happy to get you ready for a future episode of our program. And until the next time we're all together, I hope each of your business decisions moves your organization or company in a positive direction.